these are the best designed shoe I have ever seen, because the ultimate thing is I say, look, God didn't screw up on your foot. It's a
Yeah.
good design.
Yeah.
You know, I've
Let's,
been wearing no barefoot shoes for 5 years. And I got into this because I had both my legs fractured by being hit by a car. And wearing, normal, full range of motion of the foot shoes completely de-stressed out my knees. I mean,
yeah.
I'm 100% now.
There are major corporations who have convinced the majority of the world that their product is great, despite the fact that everyone seems to think otherwise, but your feet are somehow messed up. It's like everything's fine with what we're doing, everything's fine with the rest of your body, but your feet, giant mistake. And that's just an insane thought. And the joke, of course, is the proof that that thought is insane is there's a multi-billion dollar industry for orthotics and insoles and things to make those other shoes work better. Well, the big shoe companies, they know what those products are. They could make them themselves. They could build them into the shoes. Why don't they? Because they know that doesn't solve the problem either. They have so brainwashed people. It's like the boy who cried wolf, but in this case, it's the shoe company that cried padding and arch support.
Welcome back. I got to tell you, I'm super excited. I've been recommending, we're here with Steven Sashen. I've been recommending Xero shoes forever. I mean, this is like with the greatest biomechanics. Now, Steven is the CEO and founder of Xero Shoes, a contestant on Shark Tank, master All-American sprinter, fastest human over 50,
Well,
and former All-American.
no, wait, hold on. I got to jump in and do that one.
Yeah.
So now I'm 62. So in my age group, which is 60, 64, I'm like the 20th fastest guy in the country. The argument is the argument is that I think I might be the second fastest Jew in the world in my age group. Anyway.
Okay. Oh my God. Cognitive psychology researcher, stand-up comic, Tai Chi and Zen archery master. Do you know I have like 9 different bows? I'm talking to you from our farm. We just got 4 weeks ago. I'm going to have an archery range up here, buddy. If you're ever close to Temecula, you're invited up here. I got a Mongolian horse bow, Native American bow, Korean horse bow. I've got every kind of bow you can imagine.
I've only got the Kyudo, the Japanese ones right now, but I want to get back into Western archery too. I was doing that right before COVID and I really love it. We sponsored a bunch of the athletes on the USA archery team. And they were saying, oh my God, I feel like more planted to the ground and more connected and I'm shooting better than ever. But then they go to the Olympics and there's a company that I won't mention by name. It rhymes with Flykey. And they have to wear those shoes, unfortunately.
Which is crazy. Because the design of your shoes allows more proprioception.
Yeah.
You get more of your position in space. I mean, it's biomechanically is everything.
I know. It blows my mind. Well, here's the kicker. I mean, I'm in an industry where the people who are the leaders of the industry have said to us, or actually said directly to a friend of ours who then related to us. He said, they've all said, oh yeah, what you guys are doing is legit. But if we did it, it would be admitting we've been lying for 50 years.
Okay, for those who don't know you,
okay,
and I am like uber excited about this. Can you share your story, a transformation, how you got here?
Okay, when a mommy loves a daddy very much, then I'll cut past that part. So then, some number of years later, 45 years after that happened, I got back into sprinting 17 years ago when I was 45, and I spent after about a 30-year break. I stopped when I was in high school when the sprinting coach, who was actually the science teacher, didn't understand sprinting really, and I was an All-American gymnast way back then, so I put all my attention there. So, but then I got back into sprinting at 45 and was getting injured pretty much nonstop for the next 2 years. And a friend of mine who's a world champion distance runner, and in Boulder, Colorado, that's another way of saying my neighbor because they're everywhere. He said, try running barefoot and see what you learn. Now, I'm not saying that people have to run barefoot. It did change my life, just leaving it at that. But the gist is that if you're running barefoot, bad form hurts. Good form feels good. And my first barefoot run, I could tell something was hurting that I couldn't have felt when I was in a big, thick shoe with a big, thick midsole. And so my second barefoot run, I'm thinking, how can I make it not hurt? And I'll give it maybe 10 minutes. And if I don't figure it out, I'll try again later, maybe. And at the 9-minute and 30-second mark, where it was just like agony up until then, literally in one step, my form changed because I was paying attention to the good side. My right side was doing better than my left side. Left side hurt, right side felt good. So I'm wondering, what's my right side doing? And then eventually the left side figured it out. And I can tell you exactly what that is in a sec, but suffice it to say, with that instant form change, my running got faster, easier, lighter. I was smiling. My injuries went away, and that's when I became faster as well. And I've been a Masters All-American for the last 15 years. What I realized I was doing was overstriding, which is when you land. The best way to think of it is when you land, if your ankle is forward of your knee, which means you're putting the brakes on. And also, I was pointing my toes a little because as a sprinter, you're supposed to land on the ball of your foot. So I was basically putting just a ton of force right into the ball of my foot. And that was causing a whole bunch of other problems all the way upstream. And that just stopped happening. So this is only sprinters will know how crazy what I'm about to say is. But in the last 15 years since that change happened, I haven't had a real running injury. And for sprinters, that's unheard of. So, so all that said, I wanted that barefoot-like experience, but my wife was getting mad when I'd walk into the house and our white carpeted floors were suddenly getting not so white. And then I'd go to restaurants and stores and they got mad if I was walking around barefoot. So, by the way, it's not illegal. They can just have a policy or just get mad at you either way. But so I wanted to, calm things down inside and outside the house. I made a pair of sandals based on a 10,000-year-old design idea, and people started asking me to make sandals for them. And after about 50 or 60 of those, somebody said, hey, if you had a website for this sandal making hobby of yours, I could put you in a book that I've got a contract to write about barefoot running. And so I've been an internet marketer since 1992. I built hundreds of websites. I rushed home. I pitched this incredible opportunity to my wife, who told me it was just a distraction that wouldn't make any money and was a waste of time, and insisted that I not build a website. So I told her that I wouldn't, and then she went to bed and I did. And so here we are 15 years later, and we've expanded beyond our original product, a do-it-yourself sandal making kit, to now 60 styles of casual and performance shoes, boots, and sandals that people use for everything from taking a walk to running ultramarathons to playing basketball in the NBA to playing Olympic handball. Literally, you name it, we have people doing it in our shoes. And that's it.
I got to tell you, I'm to get into the biomechanics, because that's
let's do it.
First time I interview any kind of patient doing the consultation, I say, take off your shoes. And if I see the big two leaning towards the other ones, I know that it's a pelvis issue, that the nerves are compromised to the foot. And we go in there to restore the intrinsic muscles of the foot, restore the nerve supply, lumbar. Okay. Before we get into that,
okay,
what happened on Shark Tank? Because that is freaking. That's courageous. That's character.
What happened is that we did more preparation to be on that show than I think anyone else had ever done. We read the biographies or autobiographies of every one of the sharks. We did mock Shark Tank sessions with very ruthless business friends of ours. We spoke to bankers and investors, people who bought shoe companies, people who sold shoe companies, so that we knew that we were going to walk in with something. We knew what our yes and our no was. And we knew that our yes was based on something real and our no was based on something real. They're thinking that what we were asking for was too much money. But in short, we walked in with a $5 million valuation, and we were asking for them to give us $400,000 for 8% of the company. Now, we had people telling us that our company was worth anywhere between $2.5 and $10 million at that time. So, $5 million we could justify. We also knew they'd like to try to bargain you down. So we wanted to give them some room to go, but they just didn't get what we were up to. They didn't understand it, frankly. And so we got this offer from Kevin. He said, I'll give you the $400,000, but I want 50% of the company. And you didn't see this because they edited the show, so you wouldn't, but it was such a non-starter that we literally forgot he even made the offer. And Robert reminded us, and my wife turns to Kevin. We have let's call it a debate about whether my memory about what happened next is right or whether hers is. I remember her saying, and she remembers her saying, so are you bringing anything to this offer other than money? And Kevin says, well, I'm a smart businessman. I got a good Rolodex. I remember her then saying, so nothing?
No.
So suffice it to say, we turned down Kevin's offer and we walked away without a deal. Now, CNBC has a little series they've done on YouTube called Shark Tank Misses, and we were the first one they featured as being one of the biggest misses. The Sharks didn't understand what we were up to. So and the proof is, we at that time I think we had done $500,000 that year. That was 2012, and last year we did 65 million.
Oh my God. Okay. Thank God you are you. Okay. Otherwise your product
I've tried being someone else. It just doesn't work.
I mean, you literally are changing an industry that has been lying to the world. Okay. That we don't need the arch supports. What's the definition? Huaracas? Arches?
Oh, huaraches. So Huaraches.
How do you pronounce that?
Huarache. So it's a Spanish word. So the H is it's kind of like a W, really. I mean, the HU is like a W, or the way they say it is huarache. And what it is, technically, a huarache is just a woven leather sandal from Mexico. But what happened when the book Born to Run came out in 2009, it was talking about the Tarahumara Indians in Mexico. And when people asked them what they were running in, they'd say huaraches. It was a sandal. So it's basically a strip of used tire cut out to your foot shape with some leather glued on top of it and a leather strap to hold it on your foot. So when the barefoot running boom kind of kicked off in 2009, 2010, people were talking about their huaraches. Everyone thought that a huarache is a running sandal, but it's really just a woven Mexican sandal. But that was part of our inspiration. So the first product that I made was my version of that. I didn't want to cut apart a used tire. So I found some rubber from a shoe repair place. I found some cord from Home Depot, figured out a lacing system, and that was what we were selling. If you look in the archaeological records of the earliest footwear, there's sandals I can't remember what it is in Oregon. It's made out of sagebrush. Looks a lot like the thing on the wall behind me. I mean, the lacing system is very, very similar. So because it's not rocket science, or as they said 10,000 years ago, it's not rock science. All you need is something to protect your foot, something to hold that on your foot, and then let your foot do what it's made to do after that.
I know when I switched from the standard ridiculous shoe, with the arch support, which is crazy. It's like walking around with a back support. Yeah. Massive pad, your foot's angled.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you go over some of the myths and truths, like high arches, flat feet, all of that?
Sure. Arch height is 95% genetic and is mostly irrelevant. The relevant thing is strength. And this is pretty much true for anything. Stronger is typically better than weaker. I've never found a situation where weaker is better than stronger. And the thing about foot strength or anything, if you want to let's say you want to make your arm weaker. Give me an example of something you would do to make your arm weak.
Limit motion.
Yeah, put a cast on it. So
yeah,
if the joint doesn't move, all the muscles, ligaments, and tendons around that joint get weak. A quarter of the bones and joints of your whole body are in your feet and ankles. If you're in a shoe, like this one I'm going to hold up, that's super stiff, then your foot can't move, just like your arm doesn't move in a cast, and everything gets weaker. This is a problem. Feet are your foundation. If they are weak, everything above them is not as strong as it could be. We've had professional powerlifters be surprised when wearing our shoes, they're bench pressing with more weight. And people go, but they're bench pressing. It's like, right. But when you're a power lifter, bench pressing starts with your feet, how well you can drive power through your legs and then up into your body, and then you start to press. Obviously, the same thing for squats and deadlifts. Like watch any big power lifter deadlifting. They're usually in bare feet, socks, or flat shoes like ours, because they know that alignment is better and that makes your foot stronger. So when you can use your foot, if you want to make it stronger, what do? You use it. So same thing with your feet. If they can bend and flex and move the way they're supposed to, they can get stronger. So they can't do that in a regular shoe. They do it in a shoe like ours that's super, super flexy. So that's myth number one, that you need arch support. In fact, I'll give you a data point, even though I know that data doesn't convince people of things. In other words, I look like this guy. I've got crazy hair. I'm wearing a t-shirt. I'm standing in a bunch of shoes, and everyone's going to think that I'm saying this just because of my position. It's the other way around. I'm in this position because of what I discovered. There's a woman named Katrina Protopopoulos. She did a very interesting experiment. She put arch support in the shoes of healthy people who had no foot problems. In 12 weeks, they had lost up to 17% of the strength and muscle mass in their feet. that ain't good. And imagine what that does over time. And I can tell you, when your feet get weaker, they're less able to support you. You have worse balance, agility, and mobility. And for elderly people, it's one of the reasons that there's a massive increase in trip, fall, die accidents. Direct correlation between foot strength and your ability to balance and your ability to stop yourself from falling and breaking your hip and dying like my dad did 10 years ago.
Oh, 100%. Brother, I mean, I work with severely neurologic damaged patients, and getting their feet to move correctly. I mean, forget it completely changes the force loading of the knees.
Yeah.
Completely changes your hips and your pelvis. And the pelvis houses half of the regenerative system that a human being has, the rest, digest, and repair. And so you alter the feet, you're altering the pelvis.
There's a guy in our office has a great line. He goes, people go to the gym and they work on everything from their ankles up, but they're not working on anything from their ankles down, which supports everything from the ankles up.
You got to see, when I get people with seizures or anything else, we start doing cross crawl on the feet. There's so many joint mechanoreceptors in the feet. It's ridiculous.
Well, and to your point, just like you said, there's all the mechanoreceptors, both internally and externally. You have more nerve endings on the sole of your foot than anywhere but your fingertips and your lips. If you're not giving your brain the information from your foot for your feet, your brain literally changes its shape and everything is impacted by that. The good news is we're wired to get that back in shape by just getting that stimulation and motion again.
Okay. When you say the brain changes shape,
yeah,
I taught human dissection anatomy for 8 years. I was preparing this one brain, okay, doing coronal section slices like this. Yeah. And this chiropractic neurologist was walking by and he looked at the brain, probably 8 feet away. He says, oh, that person had a lower left limb dysfunction. And I looked at him like, what the heck?
Nice.
Because he didn't know all the cadavers were in their stainless containers. I took it out of a cadaver with a healed lower left limb amputation. So any type of sensory input literally changes the structure of the brain.
Yep.
When we're working on brain damaged people, we start with the feet, okay, and the central nervous system. I mean, just incredible. So like different injuries, you know, you were talking past injuries, current injuries. What kind of recommendations do you give? Do you have specific shoes? Because I know the beauty of your shoes is you allow full foot motion.
Yeah, they're all fundamentally the same. There's, depending on the activity and the shoe for that activity, there may be a little more protection. So like our trail running shoes have a very thin layer of what we call trail foam in it, just to kind of smooth out the bumps. But we want people to always have enough motion, or enough flexibility. Hiccups, so their feet can move properly, and enough feedback so they're getting good information about how to move over whatever terrain they're on, safely, efficiently, enjoyably, but also, handling the situation they're in. So the biggest thing that we say is, if you haven't been using your feet for a while, start slow. Think of it like, if you haven't been to the gym for a year, you don't go back and do the same workout you did a year ago. You use an embarrassingly small amount of weight for an embarrassingly small number of sets and reps, and you build up slowly as your body has gone, yeah, I can do a little more of that. The problem, of course, with humans, we don't know we've done too much too soon until we've done too much too soon. But typically in this situation, it's not a big deal. You just feel some muscular soreness. So that's the most important thing, is just kind of getting used to it nice and slowly. If you're mostly on your feet all day, like walking, or even just walking, sitting, standing, you're okay. Like, try walking for 20 minutes, try standing for half an hour and build up from there. If you are running, run for like 20 seconds, super, super short run. If you feel like you did a little too much at the gym the next day, wait till you feel better, do that 20 seconds again, play with your gait, and we can give some suggestions of what that means, until you can do that 20 seconds and you feel really good. Then add 10 seconds every time you continue to feel good. People always want a paint by numbers answer. How long is it going to take? And the answer is, it depends on your neurological makeup. If you don't have good proprioceptive skills, it'll take longer than if you do. If your brain map has so de-differentiated that you can't feel with your feet, it's going to take you a little longer than that other person, maybe, depending on how neuroplastic you are. So there is no one size fits all answer, which I say is good news, because instead of relying on an external source, you learn to listen to yourself and know how to become your own best coach, which is way more valuable than finding someone who says, here's the 12 weeks to running a 5K plan.
God, you're the brother I always wanted. I tell people the greatest doctor in the world is inside of you. We've got to listen to that. Look at how your body's responding. Okay. Yesterday, I'm driving with a friend. Okay. He's also a player in the NBA, and we've been working on foot biomechanics and everything else. I got him into your shoes. I didn't know you made, talk about product line.
Mm-hmm.
There are people in the NBA using your shoes.
Yeah. And WNBA. Yeah.
I mean, come on. That's the most aggressive, force loading, top level athletes. Yeah. I mean, how did you come up with that?
Well, it wasn't my fault. Wasn't my idea. What happened about 5 years ago, maybe a little longer, I can't remember. A WNBA player called me and said, I've been wearing your shoes and sandals when I'm off the court, and my feet and ankles have become indestructible. You need to make a basketball shoe. Well, coincidentally, I had just been at an event where I was showing off a hiking boot that we made. And there was a guy who was a strength and conditioning coach for a college basketball team. He goes, that's just like an old Converse All-Star kind of. Interestingly, our chief product officer used to work for Converse. So we modified that shoe really quickly just to make a kind of template basketball shoe to see if we're on the right track. And we sent this shoe to this WNBA player. And she said, it doesn't quite fit me, so I can't play in it. But I got to tell you, I couldn't sprain my ankle in these if you paid me to. So that was the initial impetus. But it got waylaid because basically I kept saying we got to get into basketball. And people kept saying to me, you're a complete moron. Even though I had managers in the NBA say to me, if you can prove that you reduce injury and improve performance, we have billionaires who went in on this. And in fact, what happened, I just remembered there was the intervening step was for people who follow basketball, Joel Embiid, very, very highly paid recruit, and within a year was having foot and ankle problems, and they thought that he was DOA. He got in touch with a woman named Dr. Irene Davis, who is like the godmother of research about minimalist footwear and barefoot footwear. And she said, well, if you can't wear Xero shoes, train barefoot. And so the coaches yelled at him, the players yelled at him, the managers yelled at him, the owners yelled at him. He finally said, my Harvard doctor told me this is what I have to do. So that shut them up. And at the end of the summer, he had healed himself of his foot and ankle problems. And that's when we were talking to his team and people in the NBA. That's when that conversation first started. But then Under Armour gave him a huge amount of money, which we did not have. And so, of course, he took all the money, which I understand. If I was in that situation, I would have done the same. Well, anyway, cut to about 2 years ago. And suddenly we're hearing from more and more professional basketball trainers who said, we need to talk to you about getting shoes on our players' feet. And we said, we need to talk to you about making a basketball shoe. And we did it in record time and put it on the feet. In fact, we weren't planning on launching it. And then we gave it to a couple players and they said, I'm ready to play in it now. It's like, that's just a prototype. It's okay. It's cool. I'll play in it. And they did, and they did really well. So we expect that product's going to launch in March officially. But in the meantime, we're finding pro players who are ready to be in that shoe so that by the time March rolls around, we've got a good roster who are saying, this thing changed my life. You got to wear these.
Yeah, my buddy's got a contract with one of those companies that shall not be named, and he's training in the barefoot shoes.
Perfect.
And just, I mean, we're talking performance levels completely different.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, but this raises a good point. I often say to people, look, I'm not trying to talk you out of whatever you're wearing if you're comfortable in it. But as soon as you're done doing whatever that activity is, get out of those shoes and into something that lets your toes spread, lets your posture be natural because your heel's not elevated, lets you feel the ground, lets your foot move. That's proven to build foot strength. And having foot strength is proven to be beneficial for almost anything you could imagine doing. So like if you're a runner and you want to wear a big, thick shoe, great. Kick them off, put these on for active recovery, for building strength, which will reduce your risk of running injury or should. And then it'll also make those stupidly expensive shoes last longer.
Yeah. And when you look at bunion formation, Morton's neuroma, all of those things are from weak intrinsic muscles of the foot.
Well, and for having a shoe that's shaped like a pointy thing when your foot is not a pointy thing.
you got 3 points. It's a tripod. You got the heel.
Yeah, well, there's those 3 points, but from the toe up, I mean, I don't know why shoes have a pointy toe box. It makes no sense other than I remember being a kid going to Williamsburg, Virginia, where the shoemakers in colonial times, they didn't make left and right. They just made them the same. They were symmetrical and they were pointy. Don't know why they were pointy. I went, maybe this is a carryover from 200 something years ago.
It could be. 5 5,000-mile sole warranty. Are you serious?
So what happened was about 2 years in, when we were still selling our do-it-yourself sandal kit, people would call and say, how long are these things going to last? I mean, it was only 4 millimeters of rubber. And we would say,
Yeah.
I don't know. No one's worn out a pair yet. So since we were inspired by the tire sandals worn by the Tarahumara Indians, I thought, yeah, 5,000-mile warranty sounds good. Only because if I said 10,000, people would think I was insane. So 5,000 seemed like a good number. And I had literally done the math with myself and a few other people. And it's like, we'd gotten more than that. So what the hell? And it's not that they're guaranteed to last that long. If you're starting and stopping your car like Fred Flintstone in our shoes, abrasion is abrasion, friction is friction. Despite the claims of other shoe companies, we can't violate the laws of physics. And so what that means is if you wear them out, we're happy to replace them for a fraction of the price of a new pair. And the number of people that have taken us up on that 5,000-mile warranty in 15 years, I can count on a very small number of hands.
Okay. Feel the World Inc. Okay. Economical impact of footwear manufacturing. What is that?
Well, Feel the World is the name. So when I started the company, when I built that website, I needed a name for the website, and I came up with Invisible Shoes, and that was where we started. But when we incorporated a couple months later, we needed a company name, and because everything we're doing is about feeling the world, it's about getting your feet connected to the ground, not in any magical way, just the way your feet are supposed to connect to the ground, and you work with the ground and feel the ground and move across the ground. And so that was the name of the company. So that technically is our company. We are Feel the World Inc., doing business as Xero Shoes.
Wow. I got to tell you, you're everything. Talk about finding a problem that people don't even know it's there and correcting it. And then using yourself to experiment. This is just brilliant.
Well, it's actually worse. People don't know they have the problem. It's worse. They think they know the solution, which never works. They think the solution is more cushioning, more padding, more arch support, or better cushioning, better padding, better arch support. It's not true. And this time I will mention a name of a company that we alluded to. On the Nike website, they published a portion of a study that they designed and they paid to have performed, where they tested two shoes against each other, their best-selling shoe and a new shoe they had just designed. And what they showed is in a 12-week study, in their best-selling shoe, 30% of the people got injured, 30.3% got injured. In the new shoe, only, and this is a big deal, only 14.5% got injured. Well, injury rates don't stay consistent. They go up over time. So what they basically proved is after 50 years of R&D, their shoes still hurt people at a significant level. 50% of runners, 80% of marathoners typically get injured every year. But the interesting thing is what they also showed is different shoe design impacts injury rate. So the question is, what did they do with that shoe that reduced injury rates from 30.3 to 14.5%? And the answer is they said, and this is a quote from the study, which still hasn't been published, but I have a copy. It said they removed, quote, many of the protective features. They got rid of things like arch support. They got rid of things like motion control. They made it a better shoe. Now, the next question would be, well, then why are they still selling that other piece of crap that is, 30.3% got injured? And the answer is yes. Well, how many shoes are they using with the new design? Up until just about 6 months ago, just one, now two. So they can't tell the story of big, thick padding, arch support, motion control, et cetera, and simultaneously telling the story, it's better if you don't have that.
For everyone that needs to know this, bunions don't run in families. And the joke I tell patients, I say, bunions don't run. Okay.
Nice.
And bunions can go away. I literally tell 100% of my patients, take a picture of your foot because you're going to be pissed. That bunion's going to go away and you're going to wish you took a picture of it.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No. But your shoes are the key.
Well, it's not, it's really that just getting your foot out of something that squeezes your toes together, letting your foot move naturally is the key. All we're doing is getting out of the way, really. Mm-hmm. But you highlighted my biggest regret was that on day one, I didn't take a picture of my foot or my footprint because I had crazy lifelong comedy level flat feet. And now I don't. And I had, not bunions per se, but my feet were definitely a little squished up. Now they're not. And happily, we hear stories from customers all the time who tell us similar things, but I wish I had those pictures from day one. The other thing I wish I had, and I don't even know how I would have tested this, my foot, it seems like it got more flexible and responsive, it seems like my reflex arc improved, and which would make sense. But I don't have the evidence to back it up, unfortunately.
Wow. This has been fantastic. I've been referring people to your shoes, explaining that the padded heel, the arch support, it screws up the knees, it totally alters pelvic biomechanics. How can even though I've been referring you when I'm at my clinic in Bangkok, my clinic in Mexico, my clinic in Huntington Beach, I'm saying, look, this is the only way to walk. There's no other way.
Yeah.
And I'll pick up their shoes and I'll say no. And you can wear high heels for fun, but not for altered biomechanics. Now, how can my audience follow you? How can they keep in touch with you? I know you got a worldwide community. Join the Zero Circle?
Well, yes, the Zero Circle is everyone who's ever interacted with us and sent us an email or followed us on social media. And I mean, we sold over 2 million pairs of shoes, I think, at this point, which is really kind of cool. And we literally have people, I think, in now 110 countries who wear our shoes, which is really exciting. So to find us is not rocket science. If you're in the EU, zeroshoes.eu. If you're in the UK, zeroshoes.co.uk. If you're anywhere else, zeroshoes.com. And on social media, we are basically at Zero Shoes or /ZeroShoes, wherever you add or slash, but there's also, like at Zero Shoes, at Zero Shoes EU, at Zero Shoes UK. So we're building, the company is growing worldwide. So wherever you are, you can find us on social media as well.
And we've got an affiliate link. Click down below.
Happy to
get hooked up. These are the best designed shoe I have ever seen, because the ultimate thing is I say, look, God didn't screw up on your foot. It's a good design.
Yeah.
I've been wearing no barefoot shoes for 5 years. And I got into this because I had both my legs fractured by being hit by a car. And wearing, normal, full range of motion of the foot shoes completely de-stressed out my knees. I'm 100% now.
Back to something you said just before we call it a day. Think of it this way. There are major corporations who have convinced the majority of the world that their product is great, despite the fact that everyone seems to think otherwise, but your feet are somehow messed up. It's like everything's fine with what we're doing. Everything's fine with the rest of your body, but your feet, giant mistake. And that's just an insane thought. And the joke, of course, is the proof that thought is insane is there's a multi-billion-dollar industry for orthotics and insoles and things to make those other shoes work better. Well, the big shoe companies, they know what those products are. They could make them themselves. They could build them into the shoes. Why don't they? Because they know that doesn't solve the problem either. They have so brainwashed people. It's like the boy who cried wolf, but in this case, it's the shoe company that cried padding and arch support and motion control. The idea that if you pronate, that's a problem, zero evidence for that at all. Now, there's a thing called hyperpronation. I know some people who are married to the idea that they pronate are suddenly going to think, oh, I hyperpronate. You probably don't. But the bottom line is they have convinced people about problems that don't exist for solutions that don't work. It's like the boy who cried wolf, but they're the shoe company who cried padding and arch support. And the only difference is in that story, the villagers eventually got smart. And in our real world, the runners and hikers and walkers keep showing up at the door whenever some company says, hey, here's our new magic motion control and arch support. And they never say, sorry about that crap we were selling up until yesterday. That shit didn't work at all. But this one, promise you, this one's going to work. It's amazing. And by amazing, I mean morally reprehensible that we have been convinced that we are fundamentally broken in ways that are absolutely, completely false, demonstrably false by your own experience. If you enjoy walking on the beach, if you can walk barefoot for 2 steps, you have proven that shoe companies have been lying to you.
I'm getting backlash from the medical system because there's a huge amount of forced and chosen and prescribed medical procedures that are dangerous to human beings.
Sure.
You can't, altering the human's physiology with a chemical generally doesn't work out well. Have you had backlash from the industry?
Well, first of all, let me say in favor of the modern medical system, if it weren't for that, I'd be dead right now, because I had a very rare cancer that we discovered accidentally and went, from diagnosis to being completely fine 16 weeks later. And had we discovered it a week later, I'd be dead. So, good on you.
Fantastic. I was hit by a car. They saved my life.
Yeah, there's a time and place. But what happens is a couple things. My favorite is I'll make videos and I'll ask things like, is stronger better than weaker? Is numbness better than feeling? Is restriction better than freedom? And then, but I'll start a video with something like, I don't wear comfortable shoes. I refuse to wear comfortable shoes. You should too. And half the comments are, oh my God, I just watched your whole video, which I've never watched a YouTube ad before, and I just bought your shoes. And the other half start with, hey, moron, or something, equally fun. And so, yeah, the problem again is human minds do not change when you give them information that conflicts with what they believe. If you believe that there's a magic teapot floating around Uranus, I can't convince you otherwise, no matter how much data I have. So the only way to get people to change their mind is first by helping them become curious about what they believe. And one way of making people curious is highlighting something they already know and have experienced that might conflict with what they believe. In other words, and I know it can sound kind of manipulative, it's not my intention, but I can't just say arch support is bad for you. People are going to go, my doctor told me I need arch support. My doctor told me my right leg is 1 millimeter longer than my left every other Thursday when the moon is full. So I need, these $5,000 arch supports. What I can say is if you put your arm in a cast, does it get weak or strong? They go weak. I go, if you put your foot in something that it doesn't let it move, does it get weak or strong? They go weak. I go, what does that orthotic do? They go, doesn't let my foot move. I went, yeah. What are you going to do with that information? I mean, literally. Now, even when I do that with people, only half of them go, oh my God. The other half move the goalpost and go, yeah, but I also need all this cushioning because I'm walking a lot. Cool. Let's go to Africa and hang out with people who do way more walking than you on surfaces way harder than anything you're on. They don't have any cushioning. Why are they okay? Well, they grew up that way. Oh, so you can't change anything in your body or how you move? All right. Well, that's interesting. Or my favorite is like, well, they'll say something like, we didn't evolve to do fill in the blank. And I go, well, we didn't evolve to do double twisting, double backflips, but I can do one. We didn't evolve to, fly fighter jets, but I know guys who do that. There's lots of things that we didn't evolve to do that we can do. We didn't evolve to run, 26 miles on a road. No, we evolved to run much longer on surfaces that are way less forgiving than tarmac. So there's, again, people, we all do this. We like to believe what we believe. And when someone confronts us with that, we're basically being asked to change our identity. And we don't want to change our identity. I get it. So what I'm met with is everything from derision to curiosity. And well, I'm just trying to move that line so there's more curiosity. And eventually, not everyone's going to get hip to it, but at some point, the table will turn, or the seesaw will change, or the something will something. And this won't be an argument. It'll just be a question of whether somebody wants to do it or not. And it's not worth arguing, because frankly, there'll be so many people having these life-changing experiences like the ones you've talked about and the ones we hear about every day that, wait, hold on, I'm going to do this. This is going to be weird. The Audi TT, when it first came out, looked like a VW bug on acid. And it was very polarizing. People either loved it or hated it. But there was a lot of conversation because people either loved it or hated it. And what happened over time is as people started seeing it more and more often, they got more and more used to it, and it didn't bother them so much. And at that same time, Audi just started making the design a little more pleasant. And now it's a beautiful car that looks like every other Audi, and there's just no conflict at all. I can see that same kind of thing happening for the whole natural movement, quote, barefoot shoe world. Does everyone buy an Audi TT? No. Some people want an SUV. Does everyone going to buy one of our barefoot shoes? No. Sometimes you're going to need something for some other use case. But do you know will people know this is a valid and viable option? That's where we're going.
You were planting seeds, brother. Even with all the logic, that you're that is how you change belief systems. Just keep speaking the truth.
The biggest thing is the experience. My number one goal as a marketer is to find ways to make it easier for people to just get their foot into a pair of Xero shoes and go, oh. In fact, I'm working with a neuroscientist who I met in part because I passed on a compliment about a book that she had written, and the person passing on the compliment, passed it on. And she said, wait, who did that come from? And the guy said, Steven Sashen. And she said, the Xero shoes guy, the shoes I'm wearing. So, so we want to do some research on what literally happens in people's brains when they start using their feet naturally again. It's going to be very interesting.
I got to tell you, give him my number.
Okay.
And we work with proprioception on 100% of the people.
Ooh,
if you want to
okay.
change bowel disorders, brain disorders, joint dysfunction, you got to change proprioception, and it starts with your connection with the earth. I mean, it's like, duh.
Yeah. Well, first, I love that you're aware that proprioception is about where your body is in space, which most people misinterpret or misdefine that word. But I mean, and this is the thing. It's like the one thing that we lost, I think, above and beyond all else, is proprioceptive feedback. I mean, I asked someone to put their arm parallel to the ground. They look like they're either pointing at their shoes or, part of the Hitler Youth. They don't know what parallel is. We have people who say, oh, the heel of your shoe, the rubber is bad. I go, no, you're overstriding and heel striking and putting force on that spot in a way that's not necessary. And they'll say, well, I don't do that. I go, well, send me a video. And then they send me a video and they're overstriding and heel striking. And I've literally had people say, while looking at videos of themselves, yeah, but I don't do that. I go, what? So, we need to, again, all we're doing is getting out of the way so you can feel what your body is doing. If it feels good, you're on the right track. If it feels bad, you want to do something different till it feels good. And if you use that fun factor as your guidepost, your guiding light, you're going to discover some really interesting things.
Brilliant. Steven, this has been absolutely fantastic.
Pleasure. Total pleasure.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was looking forward to this for forever. And you're going to meet the guy that just walked by too.
Oh, sweet.
Thank you. I mean, if you have feet, if you walk ever, you need to get these kind of shoes. You have to. I mean, and I'm telling you, take pictures of the bunions, and because they're going to go away.
Well, I'm going to add one clarification. Even if you have foot and not feet, we have a bunch of amputees who said they could barely tolerate their prosthetic until they switched into our shoes on their foot that was still there. And so, if you have people ask me who you're trying to sell shoes to, I go, people with feet, preferably to, but not required.
God bless you, brother.
Thank you so much.
Hit the link below, order the shoes, get a pair. May take a couple of weeks to work in to where start working the feet. But man, once you get used to walking normally, you're looking at knee, ankle, foot, pelvis, everything changes. Steven, thanks, man. This has been fantastic. God, meeting an independent like mind that's changing the world and changing an industry that's been lying to the public. God bless you, brother. Take care. Keep on your mission.